Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai Hashem, Wakakadash, and the Heavenly Father. The true name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son by Hashem. In the name of Hamashiach Shai, those are their true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Lashma Kadashua tongue, and I said Barak Thumb to the elders and apostles, Akim, Akwaf, and I said Shalom. And this is a sit-down lesson of the prophecy updates as of August the 12th, 2025, on this Tuesday morning. And this is from en.mirrornews.com as of August the 12th, 2025 at 4:28 p.m. And as you've been seeing, the tensions between the Israel Defense Force and Iran. And the Israel Defense Force wants Iran to stop their enrichment of nuclear capability. I just want to add a side note to that. So even if they did have a ceasefire agreement, since that tension that lasted for about 12 days, like a month and a half ago, between Iran and the Israel Defense Force. So since then, they have a ceasefire agreement between both sides, but the tensions are still going to be there between, the Israel Defense Force and Iran. As Iran continues, Israel Defense will continue to stir up the tensions between Iran, potentially striking Iran again if they redevelop enrichment of nuclear capability. As I add a side note to that. So definitely the tensions are still going to be there between, the Israel Defense Force and Iran. And it says Iran cannot agree to stop enrichment under any circumstances. It says Bajal Mellon made the remarks in a recent interview with the Japanese Koran news agencies. Iran can be flexible on the capacities and limit of enrichment, they said, but cannot agree to stop enrichment under any circumstance because it's conditional and we need to rely on ourselves, not on an empty promise. Macjad Takti Rachi said, if I pronounce his name right, it says it's simple and clear. If the U.S. insists on zero enrichment, then we have no deal. It says he also said, according to the Japanese media outlet website, for talks to continue with Washington, must guarantee that it will not attack Iran again, which that's no guarantee. Because the Israel Special Defense Force, there's no guarantee. Because the Israel Defense Force, they issue to attack Iran once again. Once they redevelop their enrichment capability, Israel Defense Force is going to attack once again. So there's no guarantee of that. So that's out the window. If negotiations resume, Ranansky said, it says the diplomatic reiterated that both zero enrichment and curb on Iran's missile program are out of the question. Though Tehran could agree to temporary limits on its peaceful nuclear activities as part of a win-win fair deal, Ranansky accused Washington of tricking Tehran by entering talks while simultaneously petitioning a military action. The U.S. needs to clarify whether it generally is interested in a win-win dialogue or imposing it will, he said. He added that the compensation to the strikes was not a precondition for the future talks. The issues were raised during negotiations. The U.S. attacks on Iran's nuclear facility was illegal and caused serious damage. And we have right to seek compensation, which they have a right to. He said it says, despite the escalation, Rappler says the diplomatic channels remain open in meter dairies. Iran is prepared to engage in dialogue with the United States, he said, but warned that renewed American threats would be informed defense. Bernansky dismissed that line as an unlateral conform Taiwan willing to talk with European powers. He he stressed that Iran's nuclear program will remain peaceful and that Tehran is prepared to cooperate with UN security watchdog to ensure safe and transparent inspections, including any facility damage in the recent strikes, accordance with the new guidelines agreed to the IEA. So Iran is not going to give up their nuclear program because they look at it as a peaceful progress for their nation. So Iran is saying that if the Israel Defense Force trying to look for a zero enrichment, they're not going to agree upon that. They agree upon a limited deal to a win-win deal, a temporary win-win deal, but they're not going to give up their nuclear capability. So the tensions are only going to stir up between the Israel Defense Force and Iran. So most likely, since that Iran is not going to give up its nuclear program because they look at it as a peaceful progression of that nuclear enrichment. But, Israel Defense Force, they look at that as a threat. So once again, the Israel Defense Force is going to use a strike once they redevelop nuclear capability from Iran. So the tensions are still going to be there between the Israel Defense Force and Iran. And this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Right? Those are signs of wars and rumors of wars between the tensions are still there between the Israel Defense Force and Iran. Right? It says ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled for all these things much further come to pass, but then it's not yet. Matthew 24, verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, like the pro-Iranian groups going against the Israel Defense Force. Iran versus the Israel Defense Force. That's what you call nation against nation. That goes into ethnos. For nation shall rise against nation. And for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes and diverse places. It's the book of Luke 21 and verse 25. It says, there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars upon the earth. Discursive nations will perplex and see which one. Right, because you still got the tension between the nations, the seditions, the uprising, war, increasing signs in the sun, from the moon and the stars, and upon the earth. Discursive nations will perplex and see which one. Which the Heavenly Father spoke about from the days before the beginning. And he's showing that forth on the planet earth. In the signs and the signs of the sun and the moon and the stars as well too. Because the Heavenly Father, He's a righteous, balanced power. And this is the book of Ecclesiasticus. It's the book of This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 3, verse 1. To everything there is a season and a time every purpose in heaven. Right, so we're living in modern day times and seasons and every purpose in heaven. Modern day biblical signs and signs and times. Ecclesiasticus chapter 3, verse 8, and a time to love, and a time to HATE, and a time of war, and time of peace. Right, so we're in those times, and a time of war, and a time of HATE as well too. Because everything is balanced, and it's on Heavenly Father power, like I mentioned once before. And this is the book of St. Mark. It's the book of St. Mark, chapter 3, verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided, several kingdoms cannot stand. Right, so we see kingdoms being divided from a political standpoint, economical standpoint, and a military, warlike standpoint. So we're going to continue all those categories I just mentioned. So I'm going to continue to increase. And that's what Yahushua spoke about in his times. Now, this can relate to modern times as well, too. As we definitely see in the modern day nations being divided against one another. It says, and if a kingdom be divided, the kingdom cannot stand. Because you're going to have a kingdom within itself being divided, and outside of another kingdom being divided against another kingdom. St. Mark chapter 3, verse 25. And if a house be divided, the house cannot stand. Right. So if a house be divided, the house cannot stand. So a house within itself being divided, outside of another house being divided against another house being divided. That's what we see. As it says again, Iran cannot agree to stop enrichment under any circumstances, right? Because you have the United States saying they want a zero enrichment, which Iran is not going to agree upon that. That's why they says they're not going to agree to any circumstances. They're not going to stop the enrichment nuclear capability, which they look at as peaceful. But the Israel Defense Force in the United States, they don't look at it as peaceful. So that shows that the tensions are only going to stir up between Iran and the Israel Defense Force. of another potential strike from Israel Defense Force if they redevelop a nuclear enrichment capability. So Israel Defense Force is on to strike them once again. So that's only going to stir up more tensions, wars, rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, between Iran and Israel Defense Force. It says from Yeni Shafak, published 2 hours ago. It says Hamas says several Israeli soldiers killed, injured in a northern Gaza attack. Right, so the tensions between Hamas and Israel Defense Force continue to increase, despite the fact they had a ceasefire agreement last November. But till then, those tensions been heating up between, Hamas and the Israel Defense Force. While the people of that Gaza City, they're going through heavy famines, heavy tribulations and heavy famines over there in the area, and hunger, humanitarian crisis. It says Hamas says several Israeli soldiers killed, injured in a northern Gaza attack. It says Palestinian resistance factions continues to conduct well-planned ambushes in Gaza, inflicting casualties on Israeli forces. It says the Palestine resistance group Hamas said on Tuesday that its fighters has killed and injured several Israeli soldiers in the attack in the northern Gaza Strip. The group military wing Qassam Bridge said in a statement that 3 soldiers were killed and injured in an ambush in the neighborhood on July the 5th. Hamas fighters also squirt in Israeli forces anti-personnel shells on July 7th, leaving several soldiers dead and injured. The Palestinian group says Israeli Armed Command Center in Microva tank was also struck in an anti-tank shell in the same neighborhood. Hamas continues says it reveals details of the attacks after the return of its fighters returning from battlefield. There's no immediate comment from the Israeli armies in the Hamas statement. Despite more than 21 months since the start of the October genocide war on Gaza in October 2023, Palestinian resistance factions continue to conduct well-planned ambushes in the area, inflicting casualties, and Israeli forces showcasing Tel Aviv unable to achieve its war objectives. It says official arms figures put Israeli military losses since the start of the Gaza war: 898 dead and 6,190 wounded. Under the tight New York Times censorship, the Israeli media has accused the army of downplaying a true scale of its casualties to maintain public morale. It says on Friday, the Israeli Prime Minister cabinet approved Benjamin Netanyahu's phase to occupy Gaza in the entirety. The first stage involving forces around 1 million residents out of Gaza City to the south and circling the city and launching incursions into the resident areas. The second stage will take over the central refugee camps, many already devastated in the ongoing war. Israel faced mounting condemnation for the genocidal war on Gaza, where it killed nearly 6,600 victims. Yeah, that was the one upstairs. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Take the game, take all the shit. I'll take the trophy. Get hurt. Get to the school. You end up taking up with the school. And you bring it down. And I'll take your school. Take you some water too. Take you some water too. Good?
Yeah.
Right now. You might know what he said. He should be out of the
Yeah.
old test.
Right. Yeah.
You say I see him, he typing that, he was on the paper. I see, he said, as I slam, and you say I see the ABC, they tap it, he put it in the key.
Right.
When I see it, they when I say yeah, D, C, A, B, D, F, G, H. It's easy.
Yeah.
They all shit. Shit. Yeah, they get the military.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 'cause they normally go across the street to that store.
Something like that. It's like them green big man tickets.
Yeah.
Green cemetery.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he showed. Yeah, one of those days. Yeah. And it says last November, the International Court issued an arrest warrant for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former defense minister Yair Gan for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. Israel also faced a genocide case at the International Court for Justice for its war on the enclave. Yeah, once again, this is St. Mark chapter 3, verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided, 7 cannot stand. Right, so that's what we're seeing. Jeremiah chapter 51. It's the book of Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 46. At least your heart faint, right heart your mind. At least your heart faint, you fear the rumor that you heard in the land, and a woman shall come forth 1 year, after that another year. There should come a rumor advising and rule against ruler, right as we're seeing mighty rule against mighty ruler, nation against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. It's the book of Luke 21 and verse 9. Then I'm going to close it out. Got the book of Luke 21 verse 9. But when you shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass. But it's not going to end by anybody, right? So these wars and commotions going to heat up between the nations. It's going to come to pass, but it's going to come to pass, be fulfilled, but it's not going to end just yet. Luke 21 verse 10. Then say ye unto them, nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Right, so that's what we're seeing. Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom that Yahweh Shai spoke about. So with that, hopefully this sit down. This was edifying of the prophecy updates as of August the 12th, 2025. On this, what's that, Tuesday morning? Yeah, Tuesday morning, August the 12th, 2025. On this prophecy update on this Tuesday afternoon. So with that, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem, Bakar Kadash, and the Heavenly Father. True name is Yahweh, and his only begotten Son Ba'ashem, and the name of Mashiach Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in the ancient Pelican Hebrew. a lot of smoke, I should tongue. And I say, rock thumb to the elders and apostles, while I come, I call for next time, I would say, Shalom.